Svaha Bhadram Pashyemakshaviryajatraha Sthirairangai Sushubhagam Sastanubihi Vyashema Devahitayadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vruddhashavaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastaksho arishthanemihi Swasti no bruhaspatir dadatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Okay, now let's go back to the example of two birds. Okay, so yesterday what we saw is, this is an imagery used, what Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakhaya Samanam Vruksham Parishasva Jate Tayoho Anyam Pippalam Swaduati Anadhashna Anyaha Abhichakashi. The beautiful imagery, the imageries are used to show us something, so we need to figure out what these imageries are for. So what, there is Samana Vruksham, there is one tree, and then there are how many birds? Two birds. So now, yesterday we talked about what are these two birds, but we also need to think about, as Matthias asked, he is not here, what the tree stands for, right? So what the tree stands for can be taken in two ways. Either the tree can stand for the whole world, which gives you a platform for different individuals to interact, right? So it can mean samashti, the world, or it can mean what? The individual. So let's, for the ease, one can do it both ways, but for the ease, let's take it as an individual, at an individual level. In which case, the tree will become what? The physical body, right? So this tree is the physical body, and then there are two birds. One is enjoying the result of the action. So what is the instrument that is given to you through which you go through pain and pleasure? Mind. Mind, right? So this one is the mind, and the other one is what? Consciousness, because of which not only the body but also the mind and its conditions are known, right? So now, what is this imagery? It's saying that the one bird is going through what? Pain and pleasure, right? And the other one is what?
Remains unchanged.
Remains unchanged, is free.
Can just add one thing, I think, Neema.
Yes.
So the fact that he's enjoying the results of this action means it's his own action.
Yeah.
This bird has been actively flying from branch to branch and trying to get some fruits, and as a result he's getting some fruits, which then he's experiencing the taste of, right?
Yeah.
The result.
Yeah. So that's use of free will. Right? So that is what we call the pain and pleasure. So that means the mind, depending upon the, you are given the platform, you choose where you want to go, and depending upon where you go, then what the outcomes are given. right? So therefore, this is the, and what happens is that this consciousness, which is as though in this imagery, the second bird, what, before you come to Vedanta, it remains
Hidden?
hidden. Wonderful, right? So that means you right now, before coming to Vedanta, we don't say, oh, I have this mind which is enjoying the result of the action, and I have this consciousness which is free from that, right? So that means this is, the second bird is, even though it's present, it is what, as Sander is saying, it's hidden, right? So that means this is almost like hidden. So now, this is the first imagery, right? Now, what happens is, the next verse, let's look what happens. Samana vrukshe purushaha nimagnaha anishaya shochati muhyamanaha jushtam yatha pashyati anyam isham asya mahimanam iti vitashoka. It's beautiful. This mind, not only it is right now in some kind of a pain, and it tries to overcome the pain, and it has its own methods of how to overcome the pain. So it has different options. What? Go to a local bar and have a few drinks. Right? Your pain alleviation mechanism. Right? That's what you see in the world, right? Now you have pain, let's get rid of it, right? Then let's go for a vacation, let's go to a spa, right? So just alleviating your pains, you know. And there are so many others. Okay, take some drugs, LSD, right? You are given the experience of oneness, wow. At least it will give you some glimpses of reality, wonderful, right? So this is how we use our free will. To what? These are all mechanisms that a human being uses. Please understand the choice. To what? To get rid of pain. And nobody can contend, because you go out there, and I'm sure many of you yourselves, right? I mean, why do you go out? Even within this room, everybody has tried so many different things, right? To remove pain. So therefore, or you can go to a psychologist, or you can go to a yoga class, or I mean, a number of choices are given, and we constantly choose something or the other to alleviate the pain. Okay? Now, what happens is, so that means at some point, not knowing this reality, which is already there, it makes you think that you are only this, and you keep on engaging, and it cannot free you from pain. Right? The only way to actually really get rid of this pain is what? Recognize. Absolutely. Recognize that, hey, actually, there is one, as though, one more, in fact, my self-identity really doesn't belong here. I have concluded I am in pain. And every engagement in the world is to relieve this pain. And who is this I am? For me, right now, this body and mind, and the senses is I am. Don't make it complicated. Right now, the searcher is not aware of some jiva and all that causal body and all. Just the person, right? So that means this person is searching for an answer, and now, suppose this person meets another person and says, hey, yes, this mind is actually going through pain, because here there is an image of self which is restricted to this entity. But there is another reality about this I am, and that is what? Consciousness. So that means you go to a competent teacher and you begin to change what you think about yourself based on what? Knowledge. The teaching. Right? Not just in some any other way, based on knowledge. So that means you begin to engage in this thing, and what you first do, please listen to this carefully. The first step is to this is also what we call methodology. The first step is you remove your identity from here by seeing that this comes and goes. Right? And this is made up of 5 elements, this is made up of, there are different methodologies, this is nothing but cells. You can use several different methods to see that this is not really your identity. And then the next question is, then what is my identity? So that means you yourself are used, and what you are made to see by the teaching is what? That there is a self-revealing presence which is already there. We are not producing it. Right? This is something which is already there, but it is something which is not available to you. So that means the teaching methodology involves for you to first negate this and see this presence, which is not so apparent, right? After having made you see this presence, further information is given by, about this consciousness. First you find it as what? Self-evident I, because of which you are able to what? See what? The external world, because of which you are able to see the sun, the moon, because of which you are able to see all the other objects, which also then includes your own body and the conditions of your mind. Okay? So that means now this is the first step. This is not the end. You are given further information because that will make that consciousness your personal, individual consciousness. Do you understand? So now you are given further information about this consciousness. And what is that? It is not your personal, individual consciousness. It is what? It is the whole. That is the second information that is given. The restriction to the body and mind, that is the second step. Right? That goes and you say, actually it pervades everything. Right? Because you do the same, X person does the same, we are all left with one consciousness. Right? There we can use the example that Carl gave. Right? That in Yoga Vidya you said they had given something, which is this idea. Right? This is a second method to make you see that this consciousness is not restricted to one thing. So what is the method that you had said about space?
You mean it was your teaching, I think in last year, the cup space, you used it every time.
Yes.
That the space in this glass is the same space like everywhere around, but we give different names so that we can unterscheiden, distinguish between, but it's the same space at all.
Wonderful. So you give, like these examples are a visual aid to make you see how that one thing which seems to be confined need not be confined. Right? So the example which is very commonly used in the tradition is that this space right now seems like what? Glass space. But so that means this glass space seems to be different from room space. It seems to be different from this vase space. It seems to be different from that bottle space. But in reality, how many spaces are there? One. Right? So then, if it is only one, are the glass, the bottle, the vase, does it divide space into parts? No. There is only one undivided space. If it is only one undivided space, why do we call it glass space, bottle space? Why don't we just call it space? To fix it in time and space.
No,
To be able practical.
different forms and get different names.
Exactly, right? So that means the presence of this glass, please understand, it's not like we are just kind of, the presence of this glass gives a feeling as though it is different. Right? So that means the presence of this glass, there is one thing which is an empirical reality. What is the empirical reality? The empirical reality is the presence of the glass does give it a name called what? Cup space. Cup space, right? But in the real, if you want to know the truth, is there anything else which is a kind of one thing which is cup space and another thing which is external space? No. So that means, see, we use the language not only to make things practical, but also there is some empirical reality. You understand? There is an empiricality about it. Yeah? Okay. So therefore, this is empirically true. Now, the reality of space is that all that is here is one space. It is before the glass was born, the space was there. While the glass is there, the undivided space is. After the glass is going to be broken, the undivided space still is. Has anything happened to space while becoming cup space?
No.
Wonderful. Right? So that means this is exactly, the body is born, the mind is born, the consciousness seems to be confined. Right? And it seems to be born and it seems to be confined. Right? But in reality, it's now, this glass space, is it changed by the bigness of the glass or the quality of the glass? No. Is it changed by what you put in the glass? Like I can put Coke, I can put mud water, I can put clear water. Does the space change?
No.
No. Right? So not only the physical body what changes the nature of consciousness, but also the mind doesn't what? Change the nature of consciousness. You understand? And it is one whole without any divisions, without any parts. Right? So this is what you understand. So one more information is given, and that is what you see as an invariable presence which enables you individually to see your mind and your physical body and outside world. This consciousness is not your personal consciousness, it is all-pervasive. Now, you may think, wow, the teaching is over now. No, third thing. There are no two things. Oh, my God. There are no two things? What do you mean? Right now you told me you're not the body, you're not the mind, you're this consciousness. Now you're telling me there is only one. What are you talking about? And this is exactly Amba's question was. Very good question. Excellent question. Why you're talking about two birds? Now the teaching is not yet over. Right? You have to show one more relationship. What is that other relationship? Satya-mithya relationship. Excellent. 1 minute. Okay? You need to show that while the consciousness, and what is the relationship? Now the next question. What is the relationship between consciousness and body and mind and the entire external world? That's the next question. And this is where you say the relationship is what we call Satya-mithya relationship. While everything depends upon whether you look at physical body, like how we did yesterday, what did we do? We reduced it to what? Atoms, particles, quarks, and ultimately a concept, and then you make the whole thing a work of what?
Intelligence.
all knowledge and all intelligence. And where did that come from? Consciousness. Wonderful. Right? So now you have just as you reduced, in fact, as Christoph is very rightly said, you come to first all intelligence and then ultimately consciousness. If you do it for one, you have done it for everything. Right? So now you say, hey, this is even further going on, and it's saying, initially I have to tell you consciousness is independent of, because you are here, I have to tell you this is not it. Later on, I have to establish this relationship. Consciousness is Satyam, and everything else is what? Mithya. Mithya means it has a dependent reality. It depends upon consciousness for its existence. Now, Dara is very clever. Yesterday he asked me this question which made, whether you guys know it or not, I was thinking about how to answer what he said for 2 hours. Because he asked a superb question, right? So now, let me, in fact, whether he asked yes, he did ask a very good question, but what I want to show you is something which is, and what Surya answered, I think everything is kind of playing in my mind, right? So, what I want to show you is, let's little bit see how the Upanishad is using different methods to make you see that all that is here is consciousness. Many verses ago, the chart that Rudra liked was which way did we see? Look at this. We saw there is consciousness, then it has what? Power? No, it has power to manifest. That is called what? Maya. Then when it actually manifests as the universe, you call it wonderful. And within Ishvara is what?
Time, space, and
Excellent. Time, space, laws, objects. So, I was also telling Timur that, when you are giving the definition of Ishvara as laws, you are only giving this definition. We are not talking about Ishvara only as laws. What are we talking? It's an intelligence from which comes not only the laws, the time, space, and all the different objects with different possibilities and different characteristics. Don't reduce the definition of Ishvara only to laws and build your big picture on that. Yeah, so that means Ishvara includes different objects with different possibilities. It includes cow with a limited intervention. It includes human being with a different kind of interventions, possibilities. All these different species, they are also within Ishvara with different possibilities. It's not, otherwise some mechanical laws are playing through everything and that's Ishvara. That's not Ishvara. Right? It's intelligence from which all these manifestations and all the interactions and all the feedback mechanisms, everything is within Ishvara. Do you understand that? So that means all this is here is Ishvara. That would mean every object is manifestation of Ishvara. This is what we saw a few days ago. Yesterday, now what we did is, we took one of these objects which is body. Do you understand? And we went the other way around. Do you see that? I look at the body, it seems to me like what? It is just this body, this shape, this form, and then I give it a name. I broke down this body into what? Forms within forms, within forms, within forms. So that means let's put cells, atoms, etc. Okay? Then I came to the question that the final thing as of now, I came to suppose quark. Then this is where the scientists end. Then where did Vedanta take you?
To the intelligence.
To the intelligence. So now, this intelligence, which was unmanifest earlier as a quark, is now manifesting as a quark. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Where do you end up? Where you end up is, suppose the whole universe is supposed to come, this unmanifest intelligence, where do you end up? Maya. Do you see that? The potential which was there
Yeah.
first manifested. You see, you're going back to the loop. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Before there was this Maya, the potential, all knowledge and all power, which then manifested as the tiniest quark. And what is the relationship between quark and that intelligence, which is now Ishvara, because manifestation has come? What is the relationship? Not interdependence. Satya Mithya relationship. The quark is equivalent to bangle. So the bangle has appeared now, which is like quark, the tiniest of this thing. What is the relationship between gold and a quark? Satya Mithya, gold and a bangle, Satya Mithya. So without all intelligence, the quark cannot come, right? And what is the content of the quark? Even though it's a form, empirical form, it is nothing but intelligence. Please don't interchange between consciousness and intelligence and all. It's a big khichdi. Don't do that.
Khichdi means chop suey. A pot and you put everything together. This is the Indian version.
Khichdi means everything is like, you interchangeably use, sometimes let's use intelligence and sometimes let's use consciousness. Anyway, you can't go wrong, right? It's not like that, right? So that means, this is manifestation of what? This quark and all intelligence enjoy what relationship? While the quark cannot exist without all intelligence, all intelligence precedes the manifestation of quark. Do you understand? And even while it is there, the real content is what? Only all intelligence. Right? But it as though has taken a form, like the gold has taken the form of a bangle. Now, the quark which is as though appearing, which is an empirical reality, like a bangle, it's not an illusion. Don't think of it as an illusion. Is further organized by the same intelligence to make it into what? Atoms. Exactly. So that means that it has made into atoms. Atoms are further organized to make into cells. Cells are further organized to make it into body. Do you understand that? So that means now, where do you find all intelligence? Tell me. Everything. And what did this tell you? First, the first thing that I showed, which is what? Consciousness, Maya, Ishvara, the whole thing is manifestation of Ishvara. Last time we approached it from consciousness down to the world. Now what are we doing? We are looking at one object in the world and going back to Ishvara. Do you understand how the universe? So that means no matter where you look from, if you examine the world, you come back at the same place. This is what we call reconciliation. This is why linearity doesn't work. Linearity means you only go this way and you arrive there and somebody asks this and oh, I don't know, this is the only way I saw it. Right? You are understanding the whole. The whole is not linear. So that's why you need to see it from so many different standpoints, and you have to, if it is the truth, you never break down in your whole thing. If it is untruth, you made one mistake, you look at it from some other standpoint, the whole thing will fail. That is what we call knowledge unshakable. You see it from any standpoint, you arrive at the same thing. And these are specific methodologies. Do you see that? The importance of all of that. So therefore, here also, what has happened is, you are seeing all these different things that you are calling atoms, cells, body. Are they illusions? No.
Manifestations.
They are manifestations. Superb. They have empiricality about it. There is a, just as this bangle is not an illusion, it has an empiricality. But in terms of the reality, it is still mithya. Because it entirely depends upon all knowledge. As Surya very rightly said, in fact, don't think there is all knowledge plus cell, all knowledge plus atoms, right? There is some atom which all knowledge is organizing to make it into cell. That cell itself is manifestation of what? All knowledge. So all that is here is just all knowledge. There is no second thing. Now, this all knowledge itself has its own truth. And what is that? Consciousness. So that's why you cannot interchange it. Please don't interchange consciousness and all intelligence. Because they are different. Right? All knowledge is in a constant flux. It's like I told you, yesterday you asked Ishvara what will happen 100 years from now. Ishvara is not some fixed entity. It says, hey, well, it depends upon the choices that you collapse. Consciousness, does it change? No. That's why you have to be careful what we are talking about. You see what I mean? One thing is in a constant flux. Timur had asked me this question, which is what, which word had I used? Pravaha Nityatva. What is it called? Ishvara is in a constant flux. Surya showed yesterday, Nataraja. What is Nataraja? The image of Nataraja. What? It's in a flux. Is he standing like this? In a flux. While is in a constant flux, let me do dancing now in the name of teaching. Okay. While it seems to be in a constant flux, what everything is changing, but it's all in rhythm, in harmony, in dancing. There is a dance there. Right? It's not like some strict Ishvara. Pat, pat, pat. Right? Ishvara enjoys your ignorance also, your lack of wiseness to enjoy, to use your free will. That enjoys the show. Right? Enjoys the show doesn't mean that Ishvara is sitting there and having fun. No. Right? So Ishvara is in the form of all these. It's in a flux. It's constantly shifting the universe based on what the new causes that we create. And from one cycle of creation to the other cycle of creation, and in between, what? The resolution. Right? But while all these things are happening, what doesn't change is what? Consciousness, which is what we call Kutastha Nityatva. Both are Nityatva. Ishvara, Tobias gave me a very good feedback, and he says, actually nobody can understand what you are writing. But he was very polite.
I said there's improvement.
Exactly. So he was very, very polite and, yeah, you're teaching really well, but there's one improvement possible. Isn't that wonderful? See, I have to learn to laugh at myself, right? Wonderful. So I highly appreciate. But for now, I'm stuck with my habit. So next time, I will improve, Tobias, I promise. Okay, right? So that means this Ishvara is what we call Pravaha Nityatva. What is Pravaha Nityatva? It survives time, space, object, law, universe because it's the cause of that, right? So cause precedes the effect. So therefore it is not subject to time, it is from which the time, space and objects manifest. Okay? Now, but it is in a constant flux from unmanifest Maya to manifest universe, and manifest universe itself is what constantly changing. Yesterday is gone, today has come, tomorrow is yet to come. It's in a constant flux. There is no fixedness about it. Okay? But why all these things are happening? What is our lovely Satchidananda doing? Doing this. Exactly. So that is what we call Kutastha Nityatva. Okay? It itself does not undergo any change. Why is that is also Nitya? Why you call it, it's also free from time, right? It's the very truth of Ishvara. Right? So that means right now, now tell me, your test. Now I've explained to you, I've made a lot of effort to explain to you something. Now the test time has come. Ask questions. Okay. Now ask questions is, now, so right now when you see the world, what all, before you came to Vedanta, what did you see?
Forms and names.
Excellent. Right? Before you came to Vedanta, the only thing that you saw was what? Names and forms.
In fact, we didn't even call it names and forms.
Yeah, sure. You just saw. Yeah, sure. Exactly.
Objects.
We didn't call it names and forms. In fact, we saw. Yeah, you're right. We saw objects, right? But they were now. After coming to Vedanta, what do you begin to see? Tell me.
Intelligence.
Ishvara, right? You see names and forms, and is there and? No. There is no and. You are talking to Vedantin, you have to be very alert. There is no and here. In Satya Mithya, you can't say I'm seeing both gold and bangle. Yes, you are actually, yes, what you are as, right, but actually in terms of reality, what it is, I'm seeing right now the gold which happens to be in form of bangle. You are precise. You are not denying the presence of bangle, but you are not into pluses and minuses. Any Vedanta, I know some Vedanta teachers, they start by, their starting point is consciousness plus this is Maya. Maya plus this is, this plus is, and then they tell you this is vision of oneness. And you say, yes, this is the vision of oneness. There are pluses and then what? The simple math you don't know, that this plus and this plus actually becomes 3, not 1. And you build one whole big, and you say, wow, this teacher is so brilliant because he's giving everything so systematic. The starting point is wrong.
But the beauty about it is because you're not satisfied by the teaching, you continue to search, and you end up in your retreat. So it's
what happens is that even Swamiji's students sometimes teach like this. I'm not criticizing any one person. Please don't think that I don't have anybody in mind. I really don't have anybody in mind. I'm just saying that, when you don't understand Vedanta, things become pluses and minuses.
There is only one word.
There is only one. right? The whole methodology is to reconcile all the differences. But the differences exist, they are not illusion, they are empirically true. Just as this bangle, I cannot, suppose you say, oh, my gold is illusion. I said, wonderful, give me your illusion. I can handle your illusion.
You handle the bangle.
Right? So please, talk a little bit. It's interesting, how wonderfully we all, talk whatever we like in the name of wisdom, right? So, yeah. Okay. So that means the world is not an illusion. So it's an empirical reality, but it is mithya, it has a dependent reality. Okay? So now, in addition to, when you come to Vedanta, as Carl is saying, you see a form, but what you understand behind that form is what? The presence of Ishvara. Right? That this form is a manifestation of Ishvara. There is not, I see form plus Ishvara. That doesn't happen. You see that?
Yeah, this is the beauty of the Mundaka Upanishad. And the first verse is all what there is Om, and everyone is asking, where is this Om?
Oh. Right, exactly. Right? So that means that form is manifestation of Ishvara. Time is manifestation of Ishvara. Space is manifestation of Ishvara. The laws, manifestation of Ishvara. The possibilities of what each form can do and not do, manifestation of Ishvara. The feedback mechanisms of the interactions which take place, depending upon how we collapse those possibilities within Ishvara. Your understanding of Ishvara has to go all the way. You can't stop it halfway. Otherwise you will end up like Schopenhauer. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not childish to, for example, to worship a lingam in the form of a stone because it's a manifestation of Ishvara.
Ishvara,
So,
absolutely.
But you have to be really conscious about the relation.
Exactly.
So
So that means every form then is manifestation of Ishvara. And as Surya said, so you create a form which not only is just one of the objects, but you give it a meaning. The meaning of what is Ishvara. That's what you saw what Dakshinamurti stands for, right? In that you represent the whole vision of Ishvara. Art becomes art. And a religious form, both. Right? So therefore, this is how you see now. Now, then Vedanta also makes you see, in addition to, not in addition, what else Vedanta makes you see?
That even this Ishvara, the world is in constant changing, but there is one thing that is never changing. That's
Carl, A+.
Carl also is a teacher.
So you guys have a good teacher. You are the same. Okay, wonderful. Right? It also makes you see the fact that, hey, this Ishvara, which is an ever-changing, what we saw, Shiva, new moments are coming, Shiva is destroying the moments, Brahmaji is what, these are just names, don't worry. New moments are produced, in between there is as though sustenance flux. That which is in a constant flux, there is one thing which is unchanging, and that is consciousness. So that means now you look at any form, you will find what, when you begin to look into the truth of the form, you will find what? Intelligence and consciousness. Right? So, let me give a simpler example. At the beginning of the retreat, Turiya told me, I love the examples because it makes it easier. And you mentioned about the ocean and wave example. You remember? I remember. Okay. So let's use that example. I'll use it in a slightly different way. Okay? So, let's use the same example. You may have heard it millions of times, right? But let me reuse this example in a little different way. Okay? Suppose you are a wave, and you are as a wave. You are given the eyes, right? And that the wave who has its eyes is programmed in a way that it can see what? Other waves. Right? So, now, how would that wave live in this world with what self-identity? I'm small and I'm this wave and everything else is external to me. They are all other waves and the world consists of what? Big place where there are so many other waves and I am this little wave. Separate from everything else and I am this little wave. And it will keep, and then what? Comparison is natural. It's natural. Because you can't stop your mind and say, oh, let me not compare myself. Hey, that's very natural, right? You say, and this is why. So what you'll say, oh yeah, this is a Atlantic Ocean wave and I am only Indian Ocean. And then the Pacific Ocean wave will say, you're Atlantic, you're ugly. I'm Pacific, I'm beautiful, blue, clear waters, right? So that means this comparison is perennial. So therefore, now a wise wave comes. And the wise wave has to teach this little, small, struggling wave that, hey, all that is here is one. What? What are you talking about? I open my eyes and I see all these waves and you're telling me all that is here is one? What are you talking about? Okay. First, the wise wave says, a little bit think about where did we all come from? You didn't really think about it. Where did we all come from?
The ocean.
Ocean. We all are part of one ocean. Oh, I want to, like I see the little waves, I want to see the ocean.
You cannot see the ocean.
You cannot see the ocean. You cannot see the ocean. Does it mean that it doesn't exist?
No.
If you attempt to see the ocean as one object, you are making it again as a, not the cause but you're again making it as an effect, a wave. So that means the reality of ocean is not what? Adrishyam, agrahyam. Right? It's not available for you to be seen. It is not something that you can capture, but it is there. So therefore, the wise wave begins to see that, hey, we all come from what? This ocean. And where is ocean? Everywhere. So that means, a little bit look at the form. This form has come from the ocean, is sustained by the ocean, and it also goes back into the ocean. And not only it is coming from the ocean, sustained by the ocean, and going back to the ocean, all the waves are connected to each other through different laws, and therefore they are all connected. This little wave will, in the light of knowing this what? Vast ocean, of which not only oneself, but every other wave is the reality of, will begin to see the laws which connect them and begins to what? Align to these laws. The life of this wave becomes from what? Comparing and struggling to being a contributor, who finds oneself connected to everything, becomes noble, begins to give up burdens of smallness, begins to be proactive, begins to do what needs to be done, gets healthy. Begins to look at one's position in the scheme of things differently. Now, this wise wave says, wonderful, you have done a good. At least you have really transformed yourself, you have made a lot of efforts. Now, let me tell you one more truth. And what is that truth?
One thing seems
There is
between
one
the wave and the
more
ocean.
reality, right? I see, so now, right? So now this little wise wave, how did that person get wise? By the grace of what?
The ocean.
The ocean. Exactly, by the grace of the ocean. Itself was incapable of seeing it by the grace of the ocean. Then, when it incorporated the place of the ocean and made necessary transformation, the ocean showed one more reality. The first, like how, what, that you, the little wave, and me, the vast ocean, are one. What? I thought I was part of this big ocean. Now you are telling me I'm not just a part, we are exactly one. How is that possible?
Because of the water.
Because of the water. Right? The vast ocean means. What does it depend on? What is the relationship between water and vast ocean? Vast ocean, can it exist without water? No. What about this little wave? Can it exist without water? No. So that means all that is here is only one. What is that one? Water. The water right now is appearing in two different forms. One is what? Ocean, and the other one is wave. Can the wave say I'm exactly equal to ocean?
No.
No. Where is the exact equality arise? Where? In the water.
The waterness of both.
Super. What? Very good. In the waterness of both. This is the fact. Don't start saying, oh, the wave is ocean, so now this little wave starts pretending as though I'm the ocean. Right? So that means the resolution comes in only where, what is the point of resolution? It is in the water. From there is no parts. Water has no parts. It is partless whole. The drop of ocean contains as much of water as what? The entire. The water is as whole available everywhere. It's not divided. It's not like one wave has H and the other wave has O2. Right? So that means the whole is only one. So that means the appearances are not denied. Are we denying the appearance of ocean? Are we calling it an illusion? No. Are we denying the presence of wave? Is it an illusion? No. Both are empirically true. And the relationship between ocean and wave is also true. But because of the grace of ocean, then one wave became wise, and then what became guru. And made what? It made that little struggling wave which could see only other wave to see what? The ocean and the water. Vedanta.
One can add one little thing. Before knowing, the little wave is saying, oh, I would like to experience water.
Right. Exactly. Right? That experience we will see, somebody has asked me in detail, so I have to explain in detail. Okay, Clementina.
Can we say that the mind can think or understand only only through Maya? Because Maya is potential and we can think about it, but about consciousness we can't think about it. Because our mind exists like a product of...
It's a product of consciousness. But
yes, but I mean like
yes, go
it
ahead.
exists after Maya, so to say. Like a product, because...
Okay.
And the last thing we could think about is Maya, because we can't think about the consciousness.
No, not really. See, when I show you, see, right now, let's come back here. Right now, you see what? The form here. Right? You see the form here? Now, before you thought it was only form. Now, I'm already also showing you that, hey, this body is nothing but some billions of cells. You don't even know what those cells are. Right? And those cells are kind of organized to create organs and all that. This is, I'm giving you knowledge of what? Ishvara. Right? That there is this intelligence which has organized all these things complexly so that it becomes a body which is able to function in a given way. So I'm giving you knowledge of Ishvara. Right? So it's immediately available to you. Now, this body and the intelligence is constantly also changing. What do I mean by that? That suppose you eat tomatoes for lunch, his example. Whose example was it? Tobias example. Okay, so Clementina will understand if I use Tobias example. Okay, suppose you eat lunch, which is yet a potential, right? You still have to decide what you're going to eat. So what this digestive system has to start working, right? Somebody else stuffs oneself with some lot of, that person's digestive system also has to keep working. So that means Ishvara as intelligence in form of all these organs is in a constant flux, right? There is a constant change taking place. Now, in this whole changing mechanism where there is a form and then there is an intelligence, there is also what? Consciousness. How do I make you see that? I make you go to your mind and I make you see that, hey, this mind which has a given thought is what? Changing. The intelligence which has organized those neurons, right, and the chemicals and the electrical things which is Ishvara is organizing things in a way that each new thought is produced. But as the thoughts come and go, there is one presence which never comes and goes. And what is that presence? Consciousness. You find all right here and right there. Why? Because in fact, even in the wave, there is right now water. If it was not there, right? Don't think about it as something behind. All that is here is just water. Therefore, in the wave, simultaneously, you can see all three. You can see the wave, the form, you can see the ocean from whom the wave comes, and you can also see the water.
I was talking about this, that the thinking process, that is beyond the thinking process. With the help of your mind, you achieve some point, so to say, but yeah, and that is beyond this point. That is beyond...
No, it means that normally we use our mind in a given way. We get the data from our senses, right? And the data that the senses give is processed in the mind. Through this process, you can't access consciousness. But now are we using this process? No. That's why go back, Paravidya and Aparavidya. Right? Now we are not using that process of just perception and inference. We are using what Upanishad as a pramana. We are using these words very intricately to make us see something which otherwise your mind is incapable of seeing. So if you use these words and if you use the meaning of these words correctly, the mind is able to arrive at its own truth. Normally, what happens is you use the mind to know things which are other than you, right? Here, you're using the mind through this pramana, external pramana, to see its own truth. It's capable of doing it. This is why we say human mind is capable of doing it. Not every mind is capable of doing it. This is why they say human birth is given, don't waste it away.
But you could say you can't figure it out yourself, you need a teacher, you need a teaching. Because otherwise you're like
otherwise you are like this.
Yeah.
The wave needs a wise wave.
Yes, a wise way
to
to point it out.
But the wave alone.
Yes, alone cannot figure it out.
And it's a kind of a miracle because, of course, there was a starting point like Dakshinamurti, therefore he's worshipped because there was like a starting point, the rishis and all that stuff.
Yes.
And it's like a miracle because we can imagine this, this teaching coming into being. It's like a grace. And it's hard for us to accept that we can't figure it out ourselves.
Yes.
It's really hard to accept.
Yes.
Because it means that you really have to follow the teaching.
Exactly.
100%.
Absolutely. You have to follow the teaching 100%. You try to add your own little spice here and there. Let's make it little. Hey, you'll make a whole big mess of the whole thing. This is why I'm a little strict. Sometimes I feel bad after the class. It was like one whole, and that's not my personality actually. But I really want you all to learn properly. Unless I shake you up a little bit, you'll think, yeah, this teacher, yeah, that's fine, yes. But you know, you can also see it this way. You'll say, ah, yeah, she says. Right? So I need to sometimes emphasize things which are critical. And it's not for me. I have only your technique. So excuse me if I'm sometimes coming out very strong. Because I feel bad, I tell Surya, I said, my God, this class I was like so, strong and I don't have to be so strong. But excuse me, but really my interest is only to teach you and not to kind of move away with all these, ideas which have no truth in them. Okay, so. Oh, 1:45, we still have time. Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question because it was the example of the glass, and when it is filled, the glass with Coke, then the space doesn't change. But does it mean the amount of space doesn't change, or the nature of the space?
The nature of space, both.
Both. Also, because you get Coke space then.
The Coke exists in space. The Coke doesn't make the space cokey. Right? So suppose you pour Coke here, right? So now you think that this space should become cokey. I move this, what has happened to this cokey space? Unpokey. Magic of Ishvara. Okay. Yes.
Maybe for me a little clarification to be sure that I understand well. When you say Ishvara survives time, space, objects, and the laws.
Yes.
Yes. But Ishvara is always in a constant state of flux also.
Yeah, so pravaha nityatvam.
Yeah, so that which is in a constant state of flux, which is the cause, survives the effects.
Yeah,
That's,
as we saw, see, this before this time, space and what the knowledge and power was in which form? Potential.
potential, Maya.
So that is same, all knowledge and all power in
Okay.
a potential form.
So it's Maya. It's
So Maya
that
and
remains-
Ishvara is actually the
Yeah.
same thing. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
all knowledge and all power.
Yeah.
When it is potential, we use the term Maya. When it is manifest, we use it as Ishvara.
And
That's
when
why-
Ishvara, yeah.
That's why it's not 1 + 1 + 1 or it's
Exactly.
not the same.
So when you say Ishvara is in a constant state of flux, Maya never changes. Actually, it's like Maya survives.
Why is that just
Or
because?
So
Ishvara-
it's actually this, yeah. So see, it's like one. So there are no different
No, no,
entities,
no,
right?
no.
So there is not like
It's
one
just a
is
way of
conscious,
looking at
then
it,
yeah,
yeah.
one way of looking at it, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, what it means is, so that's a good question. In fact, these expressions keep changing
Mhm.
because actually both of them. That's a good question. Let me clarify a little bit. Okay. So, when we talk about Maya, what is the definition that we gave of Maya?
The potential to manifest.
Yeah, potential to manifest, but it had what?
All knowledge and power.
All knowledge and all power. Wonderful. Right?
Mhm.
All knowledge and all power in a potential form. Okay? Now, we define Ishvara. What is the definition of Ishvara?
Time, space,
Cause.
The
objects,
cause, yes, it manifests as time, space and all, but the cause, all knowledge and all power.
But in the
Which
manifested.
then, exactly, excellent, right? What is the difference here is, here it is a potential form, all knowledge and all power. Then why do you have two names? As Tobias very rightly pointed out, this what is the difference here is, one is potential and the other one is manifest. But in terms of all power and all knowledge, is there any difference? There is no difference. So therefore, it is like simple, right? Right now, listen to me. Right now, can you be called the creator of the dream which is yet to come at night?
No.
No. Excellent. Right now, you are very much there, but you carry the potential. Right? When the actual dream manifests, you are called what?
The creator.
The creator of the dream.
The potential.
Is the
creator-
person different?
No.
No. It's a one. This is just different terminologies to indicate the differences. One is a potential form, one is what? The manifest. In terms of this, there are no two entities. Right? So that's why there are no pluses. There's only one. Right? Now, so some Upanishads, that is, now, some Upanishads call this potential and give it a specific name called Maya, because you can't yet, the dream has not yet come, so you can't call it yet what? The cause of the dream. It is not yet come. Right?
It's a potential cause.
It's a potential. Exactly. It's a potential cause. But when the dream comes, it gets a different name. What? It gets a name of the cause of the dream. But it is only what? It's the entity remains the same. Okay? So sometimes this gets the name Maya, this gets named Ishvara. In some Upanishad, they will change it slightly and they will say Ishvara's Maya. Do you see that? It's a slightly different terminology. So if the teacher doesn't know what they are talking about, they will imagine what? One Ishvara out there and then what? Some Maya out there and then creating this illusion.
It's like I would say my causal,
Exactly.
more or less.
right? So therefore, so the terminologies keep changing because these are what we call expressions. That's why the teacher has to understand that what it all means and make you reconcile. Otherwise you will ask this question, why in this is given the name Maya and here it's called Ishvara? You see what I mean? So that's why it actually refers to the same thing and they are different expressions of the same thing. Yeah? But that was a good question.
Once you have given a beautiful example for me to understand in the beginning, it was like you call, if I look here at Anne, I call her a woman, but in her is the potential to become a mother, so it's the same thing, right? It is very simple to understand.
Exactly. And then when she does have a child, which we hope, who will also come and listen to Vedanta. No, but Anna will get another name if she does. What? Mother. Mother Anna.
But still our Anne.
Still our Anna. It remains the same Anna, right? So that's how it is. It's referring to the same person. Yeah? Okay. So that's why we can say Ishvara as the cause, what precedes what? The universe. Because this all knowledge now has become, which was potential, has become manifest. And before it was. So this is terminology.
And that's why it survives.
That's why it
That
survives.
was my question.
You see what I mean? That's why it survives the universe. Yeah?
Okay.
Okay.
So Neema, could we then say that consciousness is a causeless cause
Yes.
because it doesn't cause Ishvara Maya, even though Maya is a power in consciousness. So that means consciousness doesn't say, I'm going to start to create the world. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, the world appears.
Okay. That's a good question. In consciousness, do we give any action or any changing? Suppose consciousness were to decide, then that would become what? A changing consciousness. Please understand what changeless means what? That you can't have an intention. You see what I mean? Can't say that now I'm unmanifest, now let me become manifest. All that cannot happen at the level of consciousness. Right? So that means the consciousness itself, as we saw, kutastha, what? Nityatva. It itself does not undergo any change. But what, with reference to the potential, it is what? That is something which undergoes change and manifests as the whole universe. And while the whole universe manifests and is governed through very intricate laws, which are all the play of all knowledge and all power, the consciousness is the only causeless cause which doesn't undergo change at all. And that's what your true nature is. Suppose if it was not your true nature, then what if consciousness itself was changing, nobody can know it 100%. Why? Because by the time I know it, it will change to be something else. You see how many problems will arise? If you attribute one thing to the consciousness, it will become a changing consciousness. And the changing consciousness cannot be completely known. You see what I mean?
A question regarding the quarks and the cells.
Yes.
You said it's due to all intelligence.
Yeah.
And how does this relate to all knowledge?
Yeah, all intelligence and all knowledge are like interchangeable. They are same terms for Sanskrit term sarvajna. Very good. Sarvajnaha means either you can translate it as all knowledge or you can translate it as all intelligence.
And that's why you cannot say interchange. That's why we should avoid interchanging consciousness with intelligence, as you said earlier. Because one is satya and one is mithya.
Exactly. So that means the relationship between consciousness and Ishvara, exactly. One is changing, the other one is not changing. One depends upon consciousness, the other one is independent. So you can't interchange the water and ocean and say they are both the same. They are not.
Could you say that for one cycle of creation, that the potential is given, I mean, there's always the manifest and unmanifest. There is
This
always
is
a
nature of
change.
Ishvara.
Yeah, this is always a change. But for one cycle of creation, is there a given potential in which is the frame for all the possibilities for change and manifest and unmanifest?
It would mean a limitation, and that's not a limitation.
Yeah, but just for one cycle of creation. One cycle is a limitation.
Yeah, but the cycles are endless, like infinite.
Yes.
So that means the potential must be infinite, because if it would be limited,
Exactly.
it's like, it's limitation of Ishvara. So.
Then you could only dream once, but we dream endlessly, so the potential remains, despite the creation of the potential.
But I see what Gabby is saying. Maybe the organization in that potential includes even though the manifestations keep changing all the time, and what happens within manifestation, the framework of time, space, objects and laws remains. So that's a framework. So that you can see. Within that there are infinite variations. Good question.
If you say it's all intelligence and all knowledge, where's the all power? Is that
Okay, this knowledge also has a power to manifest, right? So that means this knowledge by itself cannot produce quark, right? So that means the knowledge has a power to manifest the quark. Then that quark again, which is an empirical reality, which is nothing but all intelligence, because that quark is Vidya, also has the power to what we call bring into manifestation particle. So knowledge and power work together. Very good question. All knowledge and all power, it's all it's intertwined. Because then it has the power to produce particles organize, it has the power to produce atoms, right?
And
The manifest atoms.
and it's all called intelligence.
It's all called all knowledge and all power. Very good question. Yeah, because we emphasized on knowledge and intelligence, we didn't even once mention power. That's good. Okay, 1 o'clock. Oh, Andre, okay.
This is probably inappropriate time to ask, because the forbidden, quote, tendency word came up before last break.
No, see, please understand, I don't give you lectures on what is forbidden and what is not forbidden. What I do is, I make you understand that these words that you are using, in whichever way, they have a, that has a huge implication, right? Any expert will do that. Suppose I start using psychological terms, right? I don't know anything about psychology and I know very little. I've read 2 books. And then I start using all the terms bipolar and schizophrenia to start labeling people. Kurt will say, hey Neema, use it little carefully, right? Right? This is as simple as that. Right? So that means, who am I to forbid anything? I don't assume this role of a teacher who will tell you this is forbidden and this is not forbidden. My job as a teacher is to make you recognize the implications of the words that you use, and when they come from non-understanding, it creates havoc for yourself and for others. If you still want to use them, wonderful, go ahead. Who am I to tell you? I'm not here to control your life. That is 100% clear for me. So that means my messages read clearly. When when you begin to use words with either wrong understanding or partial understanding or out of context, if you have not realized the implications of that, as a teacher, it becomes my duty to show you. After that, you do what you want. So, I would like to correct it. Nothing is forbidden in my class.
But the word vasana came up, and it was explained that it will be explained
Yeah.
when the class continues, so that's why I brought it up.
Okay, thank you for reminding me. So thank you for reminding me, and I started the class by saying at some other point, because I had to move along with the text, so I will explain a little bit later. Yeah, we'll do it. Don't worry. Om Purnamadam Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.